Hello everybody, Captain VFC here with a look at another starter stroke gift set. Now, starter sets, stroke gift sets have been a part of my channel since the very beginning. I know it's quite a new channel, but it's still true, either way. However, I've only ever looked at Airfix ones. I do feel that starter stroke gift sets are very, very important for this hobby. It helps get inexperienced people involved, returning people into the hobby as well. I just wanted to see what else is out there other than just the Airfix one. So we're going to have a little look. This will cover every aspect of it, and there is a little bit of history about the aircraft in there as well. I do just want a quick disclaimer firstly, in that the audio that I recorded whilst unboxing I decided not to use. It was very clear that I had not recovered from my sore throat and that I was somewhat high on painkillers, so if it looks a little bit disjointed, it's because I've literally just recorded it now. Anyway, stay tuned for this. Spoilers. I don't like giving bad reviews. This makes me uneasy. I need an adult. So starting off with a look at the box then. All of the information down on the left-hand side. This wonderful artwork of the Hellcat doing its thing, and the price in the top right that was put on by the shop. This, just to touch on this briefly, is overpriced. I paid $15.99. I will go into a more reasonable price later on. Ultimately, I bought it from a local shop, and it was convenient, and I paid for that convenience. As it shows over here, this is the gift stroke starter set version, so it includes paints, polycement, and a paintbrush. And here is that data panel I mentioned saying it has 4 decorations provided. And oh look, here they are on the side. You have a blue one, a blue one, a blue one, and a camouflage one, a Fleet Air Arm one. And there's the end of the box, again confirming that 3 paints are included, and there is the reference. I would assume we're going to have blue, black, green, or blue, black, white, something like that. I mean, 3 of the versions are blue, so... And look, made in France! So, cracking this open, let's see what we've got. Nice foldy box that I'm struggling to open, but we ignore things like that. And we are faced with a safety advice. Do not insert into any cavities it should not be inserted in, etc, etc. And here we have the paints in 2 different pots. Weirdly, there are 4, not 3, even though it said 3. We've got black green here in this kind of newer, better style pot. I don't know if it's newer or not. I'm just assuming. I mean, why would you choose not to? But yeah, this is black green. This is 106. This is another pot of 106. And here we have some US light sea grey. Is that what it says? Ghost grey. US ghost grey. Here is the polycement, which is standard humbrol polycement. And here is the Hella paintbrush, a number 3. And the instructions, which are just a simple sheet of paper in black and white. And then at the bottom of the box, stuck down there somewhere, we have the decal sheet, which has 2 safety films for some reason. I don't know, packing issues maybe. Who knows? Hey, thanks for the free gift. Initially, these do not look good. They look bright, they look vivid. The register is way out. We'll touch on that later. And this is the underside of the box, which I had previously completely forgotten about. And it shows you the 4 essential colours, some information, and shows you the decal sheet in there as well. I really like this, and a QR code as well. Anyway, moving on to the plastic, the actual sprues themselves. Yeah, the detail itself looks all right. There's, of course, no wheel well detail. This is gently raised. Is that a thing? Slightly raised panels. And fuselage halve with no real interior detail. We'll see later it is a seat and a little bucket type thing. No pilot, of course. But I mean, it looks fine. There's almost no flash. The ejection pins are in reasonable places. It looks fine. Apart from the fact that it's translucent. And then here we have the clear parts, which is just the cockpit. The canopy and the windscreen. So moving on to the instructions, and handy helpful hint at the top left here is it tells you the essential paints as black, black green, 106, 127, basically the Fleet Air Arm colour. Here you can see that these are painted a pale green, and we have decals for the seat. Of course, none of these colours are considered essential, which is a little strange. I do like that it clearly lists which paints are needed for every step. That is quite cool, but it does seem odd that there are 4 essential paints, but they supply 3 of them, and that none of those are blue, but they do match the ones that are on the back of the box. And then here we have the colour call out showing the blue, and Fleet Air Arm ones, which the Fleet Air Arm is, like I say, the one which the paints are clearly tailored towards. It doesn't seem to give you the option using just the starter set stuff to do the blue one, which, considering one of them is French, you'd have thought made sense. But nope, we have green, we have grey, and then we have 2 of these 106s. I do think that is an error. I have since looked it up, and some people were suggesting that it comes with 4 paints, which is correct, but instead of 2 106s, one of them is black. But clearly, this is the one it wants you to do down here with the paints, and the blue ones are, I don't know, some sort of added extra for enthusiasts of Hellcats in the colour that they were normally seen in. Right, so here we're looking at the Hello website. This is the starter set in question. So they call it a starter kit. It's also sold as a gift set. The price from Hello is €12.49. And here we can clearly see it's the same one, including the paints, same product code. At the time that I bought this, because I filmed this on the day that I brought it home, that equated to £11, 2p pound sterling. Yes, you will have to obviously post it from Germany or France, I think it's Germany, but that gives you an idea as to what they charge for it. For some reason, Scalemates doesn't actually know what year this was originally tooled in, but official Hella Fangirlmas modeler sent me this image of the back of the box from a newer release, which confirms Hella lists the tooling date as 1977. So moving on to the construction then. I had a decision to make. Based on the paints that were provided, I was clearly going to have to do the Fleet Air Arm one, and the paints only really cover the exterior of the aircraft. The inside and all of the other sundries and things are going to have to be from my own paint collection. The original idea of making this as a starter set or gift set challenge type thing, but with a few extra tools, went out the window. Thanks, Hella. So what I decided to do, and you'll see later, it's the obvious choice. I'm doing the Fleet Air Arm version. I'm going to use the Hella paints for the exterior, but for anything else, anything that is not those 3 colours out of the 4 they supplied, I'm going to be using my own paints. So I've used humbrol 85 black on the engine, and here I'm using the Hataka interior green for everything inside. I did briefly consider mixing my own colour using maybe the green and I guess I'd have to use the green and the grey. No. We'll get onto the quality of the paints later, but for now, we're making this, like I say, more or less as per the instructions, which is why here I'm painting the interior space, and the instrument panel and the engine. In fact, the engine, as you see here, I'm trying to make it not perfect, not my normal level, but I've mixed a bit of Tamiya chrome and some black just to get that metallic-y look, and then the engine hub here in humbrol 64 grey. Oh, here we go, seat belts. Oh, sorry, this kit's jumping ahead. It's bringing back all these horrific memories. For some reason, the decal for the seatbelt just decided it didn't want to be attached anymore. This is the only decal in the kit that did this, but it just decided, no, I'm not going to be on your kit today. And I had to piece it together. To be fair, it was actually a little too large, so it kind of worked out in my favour that it ended up falling apart and I could shorten it. But anyway, once that's done, the side is glued in. The side is glued in? The cockpit is glued in to one fuselage side, and it was then clamped. And you can see here I'm having difficulty with it. That's because the plastic is warped. I touched briefly earlier on how the plastic is translucent, and you can clearly see the green from the outside. You see the bits that I've painted. It is awful. It is slightly warped. It is very, very soft, and I don't trust it at all. This is probably the biggest problem with the kit, if I'm honest. Anyway, sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I'm getting all excited. The engine is 2 parts that then stick to these pins inside the cowling, and it doesn't actually have any marks whatsoever. You just kind of put it in until it feels about right, and then put some glue on it. It's not the most intuitive thing, not ideal. And then moving on to the drop tank, which I don't even glue on just yet. You'll see that later. The wings have had black painted on the inside above the ejection ports for the guns, just to try and mask a little bit the fact that there is no interior detail. And the wings are then held together with clamps and tape before the fuselage is glued together. There will be a slight gap where the join of the fuselage and wings are. Obviously, I don't know if this is a case of the kit or me. I'm just going to go out there and say it's probably me. And it could have been sorted with a lot more work, a lot of filler, some sanding, probably more swearing. I did do plenty of swearing at the kit, but it didn't work. But you'll see that later. At this point of the construction, I knew what I was getting myself into, right? It's an old kit, and it just requires a little bit of extra TLC. Anyway, the engine sides are glued onto the cowling and engine installation. They had to be sanded a lot more than I was expecting, just due to the way that they were fitted to the sprues. But a bit of Revel contactor glued onto the front of the cowling piece, the cowling unit, is all good, and the propeller blade is still able to spin. But then a bit of Tamiya extra thin squeezed in just to make sure everything fits nice and snug before the instrument panel, which has a decal that I for some reason decided not to show, is glued in underneath, as well as the aiming reticle, which in this case is a solid plastic part. You often see clear ones. No, Hella decided back in the 70s, nope, solid. Then we stick on the horizontal tail surfaces. They went on without any problem whatsoever. And then the main wing, which, like I say, was a bit of a pig. Because of that front fuselage bowing, it didn't quite work. And I had to hold it down with these elastic bands, as you can see, where it then just sat for a little while. There is absolutely no way of getting the engine on no guides to help you get the engine on. You just glue it and hope for the best. Yes, that's right. No locating pins. No, you're not allowed to know where it goes. You just have to slap some glue on it, shove it on, and hope that it's square. Don't forget, starter / gift set. Okay, I'm getting a bit angry now. Right, the moment of truth going on to the paints. I was a bit dubious as to the quality of these. Everything exterior, by the way, is being painted with the Hella brush supplied. We are starting with the US Ghost Grey, or whatever I said it was, on the underside. And the paint isn't too bad. Now, I deliberately did not thin these, or at least I didn't thin this one. Don't have a go at me in the comments for not thinning my paint. I'm trying to make this as a starter / gift set, and it doesn't tell you, oh, by the way, you should thin the paint. It just gives you the paint. So that is what I did. Ultimately, it should be usable. And yeah, you know what? It's all right. Honestly, I could have done with a bigger paintbrush. I know I could have used one, but again, trying to make it as much as possible using the stuff supplied. And then the 106, what the humbrol would call ocean grey. This one was thick and gloopy. Just look at that. It's like painting tar onto something. It did end up with a drop of water to thin it a little bit, just because it was, well, yeah. Yeah, not going to lie, it was yeah. Also, can you see how clearly the black that's on the inside of the wing shows through on this awful translucent plastic? In case you can tell now, by the way, I am actually starting to get a bit angry watching this footage back. I don't think, spoilers, this is going to be a 5-star review from me. Anyway, right, the rest of the painting is just going to happen in the background. I think it's time for me to go and have a cup of tea, calm down a little bit, and hand over to History Captain with a little bit of history of the Grumman Hellcat for anyone who doesn't already know. So, over to you. The Grumman Hellcat was developed from the Grumman Wildcat and drew upon the years of experience that Grumman had gained for pretty much as long as the US Navy had been throwing planes off of ships. Following its introduction in 1943, it quickly established itself as a very capable aircraft, serving as the main fighter of the United States Navy in the Pacific for the rest of the war, until being replaced after the war by Grumman's next single-seat carrier-borne fighter aircraft, the Bearcat. The Hellcat was produced in eye-watering numbers and were responsible for more aircraft shot down than any other Allied naval fighter. It was incredibly competent and it arrived at just the right time. It is questionable as to whether the US Navy would have been able to attain air superiority in the way that they did had it not been for the Hellcat. In Fleet Air Arm service, the Hellcat was briefly known as the Grumman Gannet, before the simplicity of just naming your British aircraft the same as the American counterpart took effect, and thus it was mostly known as the Grumman Hellcat. Later versions were able to be equipped with 6 rockets, as demonstrated in the kit here, and the aircraft were used in all manner of roles, mostly land-based from the Fleet Air Arm, but they could be seen doing anti-submarine patrols, ground attack, and just pretty much anything. Between 1950 and 1952, Hellcats also saw service in Indochina with the French, where they were still painted in, basically US Navy, glossy blue. And finally, the Hellcat was also the first aircraft to be used by the Blue Angels Flight Demonstration Team when it was formed in 1946. So, with the painting complete, the aircraft was given a coat of humbrol gloss varnish ready for the decals. And despite its age, this kit has stencils for days. Look at them all. They're on the sides, the top, the bottom. I have time for none of that. I will be using just the basic markings and discarding all of that extra rubbish. Using the usual microset, microsole combination, these were fitted with pretty much no issues at all. It would have been slightly better if the paint finish were a bit nicer, but hey, never mind. We'll see the result later. So then we move on to the final details, including the rockets. Now, I wouldn't normally fit rockets onto a Hellcat, but given that the mounting points are just basically these cubes on the underside of the wing, kind of feel like I need to put them on, because otherwise it just looks ridiculous. It looks like it's flying around with these Minecraft blocks bolted onto the bottom. Anyway, the canopy is also glued in at this point, again using my risque Revel contactor system that if I dared messed up would result in a completely ruined canopy. And the drop tank is also now fitted at this point, along with the undercarriage legs. The undercarriage legs not fitting in particularly well. There's a hole with a sort of plug in there. It's just you can't really get the angle right. They're just a little bit loose. Anyway, and then the wheels and the sort of extra door things on the undercarriage legs and the pitot tube. So, as the final touches are done, we're going to take a little look at the final product, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Let me just take a very deep breath, go into the calm down chamber, and we'll see what I think. So here we go, and let's look at the positives first. I don't think it looks too bad, considering, and I didn't feel that it was so bad that I had to flush it down the toilet. The kit itself is okay, not bad for its age. I mean, it is 1977 tool. It fits together mostly okay, and the detail is fairly fine. The obvious bad points are the paints. The 106 was truly just terrible. The green and the US Ghost Grey are not too bad, but they're all the wrong colours. This isn't Fleet Air Arm colours, it's a vague, crude representation. The underneath should be kind of like a sky or a pale grey or something like that. The green and grey balance is all wrong. Couldn't they have just put in a blue? Just put in a blue. It's a French company, a plane in French colours. Just put in the blue. God damn it, I didn't want a Fleet Air Arm one. The use of this as a starter set / gift set is the biggest cause for concern. If this were my first ever kit, I would have struggled more than I did now. It may not have fit together properly, especially not with the quality of the plastic. I mean, come on! It just warps sitting there in the box, and you can just bend it around with your hands. It's just crude. It's bad quality plastic. It's an old tooling. Release it perhaps, yes. I'm not saying, just destroy it. No, preserve your heritage of your tool. Release it maybe in the future, part of the Musée series or something like that. But to put this as a starter set, or gift set, depending on where you read it, I think is wrong. The brush is fine. The poly cement I didn't even bother using. I was going to, but it's just Humbrol's one, and that's garbage. So, yeah, not the best experience, if I'm honest. I would thoroughly avoid never, ever spending $15.99 on this like I did. If you saw it for a tenner, at best, maybe. go for it, knock yourself out, or even better, just don't buy it. There are better Hellcats out there, there are better starter sets out there, there are better gift sets out there. Admittedly, there are worse ones, but this is not something I can recommend. I might, just for the sake of it, just paint over this colour and put it in blue and see if I can make it look not that bad. And also, I forgot to mention it until I'm looking at this now, but I broke off the radio antenna because they're just moulded onto the fuselage and I'm clumsy. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to see more content like this. There'll be a recommended video, and I'll probably end up doing another starter set video because I'm an idiot and I never learn from my mistakes. But anyway, thank you, goodbye.